As a 16-year public educator, I know what it's like to be in the trenches. I know the frustration, the overwhelm, the discouragement, and the hard work. I also know the successes. The mission of my blog is simple: to help you find your more. More time, more from technology, more student engagement, and more hope.
Hey everybody, welcome to another Tech Tuesday. I'm Suzy, Lolley, your host, and I'm coming from SuzyLolley.com. I keep it really simple. There's nothing else to remember. And I'm here with a wonderful guest today. I first met Dr. Michael Harvey when he participated in a conference that I hosted a few months ago called The Efficient Teacher. He was kind enough to share a couple tools and a workflow that he's really proud of that has made his job easier in the classroom. But before we get into all of that, hey Michael, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself. I know you're from one place, teaching in another. You just took a fancy vacation, whatever you feel like sharing. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's quite complex possibly. So being a New Zealander, we like to kind of travel. So I'm originally from New Zealand, and I decided to, after teaching in New Zealand for about 4 years, to start teaching overseas. So I started off in China, and now I'm in Marlborough College in Malaysia.
And college, that's what we call high school here in the States, right?
It's a fancy posh name for high school. Yeah.
Okay, and yeah, keep going. Sorry.
That's fine. I'm teaching science, and the reason I chose the position at Marlborough was because it gives me an acquaintance with the International Baccalaureate program, which I haven't had experience with. So yeah.
So well-traveled, well-read, and I cannot wait to dive into your experience, which is why I have you here. But every conference I go to, everywhere I look on the internet, you see Google, 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 and I just finished working for a district and have moved into another district where we're the little Microsoft district in a world of Google. And I know that we used Microsoft because we were called like a Microsoft shop. We had, we were on their fast track kind of inside circle. That's what we had available to us, and they really pushed that. But, you've traveled, done different things. What has drawn you to Microsoft when it seems like a lot of other people are using Google in education?
Well, actually, my school is a Google school here in Malaysia, so I'm still fighting the fight for Microsoft. I think the advantage of Microsoft is twofold. I like, especially when using the OneNote features, well, actually most features, is the Immersive Reader edition has been useful for EAL learners, especially in the international context. And also it's the different forms of feedback you can get with the Microsoft products. So, for example, you've got Flipgrid for student voice, and also embedded in the OneNote, you have the ability to record, you have the ability to do verbal feedback, use stickers, for example, if that's your thing.
Yeah,
so
that's my thing.
A whole possible range of student feedback, and also students being able to feedback to you, not just simply writing a document and getting written feedback.
And I like, here's what I like about Microsoft. It's not that I don't like Google. I had to call it the G word in my former district. It was that we were that vehemently opposed, I guess, to using it. But I would say a couple things. Number one, I think it's more marketplace ready. And as we're preparing students for college and career readiness, I've never seen, there are some, I'm sure if you want to work for Google, you need to be familiar with their products. But every time I've seen a job description, it's familiar with PowerPoint, the Microsoft Office suite or whatever. And then also, I feel like even though Microsoft was late to the game, they are really listening to what educators want. Like, it's been several years that they've been really hot and heavy with getting in schools and Office 365, especially since they changed CEOs several years ago. But I think that they have just really listened to feedback. I mean, you spoke about China a minute ago, and as Forms was being developed, which is one of the tools we're about to talk about in a few minutes, I got on a phone call with the developers in China because they really wanted to hear, you're a teacher, what are you hearing in the classroom? And so I really like how responsive they are to feedback. Even Twitter, I can get on Twitter and tweet anybody and get some answers or whatever I need. So that's what I've really enjoyed about it. I do feel like the tools mirror each other in some ways, but OneNote, hands down, is my favorite. I say that I'm on the OneNote love boat. So we're going to get into OneNote in just a minute and Forms, and I'm with you. I'm a fan of that tool. If nothing else, that's why I'm a fan of Microsoft. So going down that trail, now let's talk about the two tools that you've used in your classroom. You've talked about OneNote and Forms. kind of give us a little orientation to those and tell us basically what's your workflow? How are they helping you in your classroom to save time specifically and give better feedback?
Yeah, one of the battles I had as an early teacher was allowing students to actually control and manage their own workflows themselves. And OneNote allows the students to have it all in one place, and they can also personalize their OneNote pages. It allows me also to differentiate because I can shoot off different pages to different students. The portfolios they create become unique to them. Also, as I said previously, it's about the feedback options. You're allowing different forms of feedback, not just typing an essay. You can be giving verbal feedback. You can be giving visual feedback if it's going to be diagrams. So for me, the most important thing for OneNote is it's a great way for the students to curate their workflows and what they've created during the year. Before that, it was just all over the place. Usually it was just a paper book, so you'd give a handout, and the handout would probably end up at the bottom of the bag, all crunched up. It's also, I guess we'll go into this now also with Microsoft Forms, is that Forms and OneNote in combination are great tools for assessment for learning. They allow the students to see what they are doing well, because it's immediate feedback, and what they need to improve on and how they can improve on it. And that's where the feedback comes in as well. So I can see in real time what they're doing in class. I can then give real-time feedback, so I think there's more efficacy in the feedback I'm giving in terms of assessment.
And I like what you said, a few things I just want to kind of bring out further. So you talked about how students are kind of in control. I think for so long, I am a 16-year teacher, but I've moved into the technology world the last 5 years, but I was a middle and high school English teacher for 11 years. And so many times I think I will just say me, but I know there are a lot of control freak teachers sometimes, and we want to be in charge of the feedback, the portfolio, where the papers go. You know, I've seen so many teachers that even give like a notebook grade, which has nothing to do with what the student actually knows, but can you be organized? I personally have had to, and I'm going to pick on middle school boys because that just seems to be its own species. But my grade boys, so many times having to help them dump out their backpack, make them some dividers. And so I love that OneNote just eliminates that. If you forgot your pencil, no big deal. You don't have to worry about putting your name on your paper, and it's not going to get lost. I mean, what's not to love? It's giving them that control, but also the kids who really do struggle, they're smart kids, but they don't have organizational skills. We're kind of scaffolding for them. Yeah. You made a couple of other points. Let me collect myself here just for a minute. Awkward pause, awkward pause. Oh, you had talked about, here's the other thing I wanted to say. So I like that you said in OneNote, they can respond in different ways, but also you can give different kinds of feedback. So you said earlier, you know, if you're a fan of stickers, I loved when OneNote came out with stickers a few years ago, and they've kept expanding those. But you can use those as badges, which is, you know, something I've taught on my website before. But also, if you need, like you said, that automatic feedback, not just the, you know, sometimes we want to type things out or give voice feedback, which you can do in OneNote. You know, you can do audio, video back to the students. But if you just want that quick automaticity. Now, are you using forms embedded in OneNote? Like, do they go to a OneNote page and they'll see the form there? How is that? How are you using those?
It depends, basically, because I was thinking also the gamification aspect around and badges. The utility also for students to work at their own pace. So essentially, once they've finished a section of learning, then they can get a password, and then they can unlock other pages so they can continue on at their own pace. That way they gain mastery of the topic, and then they can move on, rather than, okay, children, we're now all at this particular point in the curriculum, so you have to be doing this now, even though you don't really understand what we've just done. So it just allows the students to be controlling the pace of what their learning is. In terms of Microsoft Forms, it's a bit of a two-way street. For sometimes I embed them in the OneNote, but sometimes they stand alone if it's kind of unit assessments, which kind of the school requires. So I set them all at the same time, just through an email link. So you sit down, do the assessment, and then we can just get the information that way.
Absolutely. And do you know that I have taught Breakout EDU through OneNote, but I have never thought of it I have never until this moment thought of using it as a pacing tool. So I think that's incredible. The idea that you would just have a list of passwords and the kids get the next password when they've mastered this content. I love that. Yay. And I thought I had taught OneNote and gamification every way you could teach it. So that was a really cool thought to have. So you're getting that feedback. You're able to share it with students. Do you see and speaking of gamification, we would say that you're shortening the feedback loop. You're not having to go correct the papers or whatever. Do you see that kids are giving a better response the more feedback they get from you, the more frequent feedback they get from you? Are they doing better?
I'm finding out now when I'm marking the exams what I'm doing after this talk, but it seems to be because of, especially with those students who have English as a second language is a big thing in the international schools. Mm-hmm. That quick immediate feedback allows them to kind of say, okay, I've got that now, and move on. Because a lot of problems with just using paper is that you're probably going to be doing it in a week. So it'll be like, okay, you do the assessment, I now take it in, I mark it, and then we have it next lesson, and that's 3 or 4 days, and then they've forgotten about it, they've moved on. So the ability of using forms in OneNote is that feedback is immediate, essentially, or very close to immediate. You can actually do it in the lesson as they're doing the task, which has shown, I hope, improvement.
Like you said, you'll find out when you grade the physics test. And another thing I have thought about before, but again, this conversation is helping. That's what I love about these conversations. It gets me thinking too. But, we have, I don't know if they're called Scantrons there, but the bubble sheets. Yeah. Teachers have used those for years, and they do make the grading quick, but they don't make the going over the test quick. So you would still have to, if you wanted the kids to know what they got wrong, you'd still have to take a day or 20 minutes or whatever, however long it is, go over all the questions and what they got wrong. But here's the cool thing about forms is there's a comment feature built right in, which I need to be better about using. I use it for a different purpose, but if I were in the classroom, I definitely can see that, you can give right or wrong feedback. So if they select this answer when they go to turn in their exam, then it will show them why they got it wrong or why they got it right. And it's, again, saving you more class time. So I think it's kind of a double for your trouble type of a thing. So if teachers are just starting out, maybe they're not using OneNote, they're not using forms at all, or they're new to it, what tips, can you think back to when you first started using either of those? What do you think they need to get started successfully?
Yeah, I think just keep it simple. For the use of forms, just a simple multi-choice test to start off with, because that's easiest immediate feedback. The students can see, okay, I've got a drop, and then using the comments. So just a short little, I guess you have them. I guess you would have them in the States. So you have the finishing of the lesson, little exit ticket of 3 simple questions in order to say, okay, we've kind of nailed the learning objectives for that particular lesson. So I'm still using those. I'm using the kind of video embed questions for those ones. So they basically, after the lesson, I give a short little 4 or 5 multi-choice questions just to make sure that they've got some of the possible misconceptions sorted out. So that means next lesson, I can then focus on those students who didn't quite get it. Those students who got it, then you can just keep on going. In fact, those students who got it can also then become teachers in the classroom, so that way you have more than one teacher, which again, it makes learning efficient. My tip would be just start off small, a simple exit ticket with forms, and kind of use that as quick feedback to see if the kids have got the topic.
And I'm going to add to that tip on the OneNote side, there is an excellent website. It's just called OneNoteForTeachers.com. There also is, you can go into the Microsoft Education, what does the C stand for? The MEC. I just went blank. I'm having it's a Friday afternoon when we're recording this. So anyway, the MEC. Just search Microsoft Education, something with a C, and you'll find it. There are lots of courses there, but I like OneNote for Teachers because you can actually practice using OneNote. Like you click a button, it says now add a title to your section, and it actually walks you through. So if somebody is just starting out on using OneNote, take your tip of starting small with forms, and then, you know, they're going to have a really good entry level into the world. So I really appreciate you chatting with me. I know it's early in the morning for you there. It's in the afternoon for me here, but thank you so much for making time. Like I said, you really made me think, and this is something I do all the time, is share about OneNote and forms. So really appreciate it, Michael, and I hope you have a great weekend. And now we're seeing this on a Tuesday, so I'll send you the link.
Okay, thank you very much.
Take care.
Hey guys, I put my heart into these videos, so I hope you loved it. I hope you've loved all of them, but if you haven't, then make sure you go back and watch the previous videos. I'm making playlists for you all the time. So if you're somebody who wants time savers, there's a playlist for that. If you want to gamify, playlist for that. And all of my themes of my blog. So did you like it? Go ahead and click the thumb below. If you really liked it, I'd love if you shared it on your favorite social media channel. I'm at Suzy Lolley on Twitter. And then finally, my very favorite is if you subscribe. Subscribe to YouTube and subscribe on the blog. Take care.